Hello and welcome to Africa Today. I am Mike Okwoche. Sorrowful wails and sobs resounded as thousands of Rwandans packed the country's main sports stadium to mark the 20th anniversary of the beginning of a devastating 100-day genocide. Now, this is an anniversary that defies celebration and a history that is unraveling even up till now. While we may never understand the full truth and be able to right all the wrongs, the dangers of the international community standing behind a singular narrative of the genocide can be seen in the ongoing crisis of Rwandan refugees. 20 years ago this month, Hutu extremists started a genocide in Rwanda, which continues to haunt other countries that failed to intervene. Now, operating from a position of guilt, the international community created an official narrative of the genocide that effectively continues to fuel the ongoing crisis and failed justice in the Great Lakes region of Africa. Now, what do you make of the rapid transformation of Rwanda? You can share your thought with us on Twitter at TVC Africa Today or send an email to africatoday@tvcnews.tv. We'll take this report now and Africa Today will continue. Welcome on board.
The build-up to the 20th anniversary of the Rwanda genocide is springing up emotions as the memories of the massacre floods the hearts of people who lost their loved ones. In the years that followed the 1994 genocide, Immaculée Mukankudeye would hear nothing of the word reconciliation. The 56-year-old lost her husband and 3 children to Hutu extremists who happened to be her neighbors in Sindajuru, a village near the southern city of Butare.
I thought it would be impossible to find reconciliation, to forgive my neighbor who killed my children.
But in 2007, she joined the Modeste and Innocent Association, a Catholic group set up to promote reconciliation among victims and killers. Now she has the capacity to forgive.
The fourth step of the reconciliation process is to develop an action plan that is based on the obstacles that are found in creating harmonious relationship.
The southern province of Butare was home to at least a quarter of the small Central African nations Tutsis, and for the first 15 days of the genocide, the people were safe. However, when the killers finally descended on the area, around 200,000 people were killed. The issue is particularly felt on a daily basis in rural areas, where victims and killers who lived side by side in peace for years before the genocide now have to live together again.
I was afraid of seeing my neighbors because of what I did to them, but today I have the courage to tell them the truth, to ask for forgiveness.
20 years on, the question of reconciliation is still a central issue in the country and one promoted heavily by the government.
Right after the genocide, Rwanda was really a destroyed country, a devastated society. But there was this feeling of life being hopeless to the people, and this has left them devastated. Even after 20 years, some still fear for a possible recurrence of the genocide. Now, on Africa Today, we will be looking at Rwanda 20 years after. With me in the studio is a Rwandan, Fifi Josephine, Country Director, Rwanda Air. You're welcome to Africa Today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now, let's start it this way. You were not in the country within that bracket of 100 days, but shortly after that time, you paid a visit, you went to the country. What did you see when you paid that first visit after the genocide?
I would say that the story starts not when I step in. Okay. It actually starts when I decide to send my own siblings to Rwanda to go to school. So I'm a product of the diaspora. I'm born outside Rwanda, and exactly in January 1994, my family moved into Uganda, and 2 months later my mother passed, and she was the last of my parents alive. So just 2 weeks after the genocide started, you can just imagine when you're in a country, you're very young, and there you're thinking, the only relative I have are in that country. So I remember meeting my uncle, the only surviving brother to my father, on the streets in Kampala.
Wow.
He just walked. He just woke up one time and said, "I think I still have children, and they're in Uganda." Okay. So he took a bus, came. He had lost all the families. At least he believed he had lost everybody. And we met him on the streets. So this is now in towards actually August. And in September, that's when my first families that were actually in Kigali started telling me how life was in Kigali. So I got to Kigali basically about a year after the end of the genocide. I was impressed. I was impressed by the picture I had in my mind was what I was saying. And it was amazing to see people still smiling and telling you the story. I remember I had to ask one of my aunties, tell me how it happened, because I don't know how to ask. Even my uncle, I couldn't ask him. But my auntie, I told him, just tell me. Amazing, amazing, amazing. And I mean, you can't get the real words to describe the sadness and seeing a smile on the face of this survivor. So yes, I saw, Rwanda was too small, the Kigali was too small compared to the cities where I grew up. It was really small, and I remember I just told my brother, this looks like a village. Huh? This looks like a village, because we were living in big cities in Africa, but big cities, and I was like, are you sure this is the place we have to live? But I said, guess what? When I looked at the hope that people had and the determination of the government, this is the country where I chose to send my younger siblings to go to school, because I grew up in a country that is a Francophone country, and we had migrated back to Uganda, which is Anglophone. Obviously, my siblings had a problem with the language, with English. So I said, Rwanda, they still go to school, they have schools in French, so maybe you need to go there. And so my younger sister and brother actually went to school in Rwanda. That's and great. I'm very proud of it.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right, during the genocide, the days, the 100 days of that genocide, you were not in the country, but what were you going through? What do you listen to news every day? How concerned? Can you tell us your experience that time, even away where you are outside of Rwanda?
Okay, I was in Uganda.
Okay.
And I was following the news mainly on radio and in the newspapers, okay. Because obviously, not much was shown on TV, not much, very little. And I remember being shocked by in one newspaper where they mentioned that the fish have been eating Rwandans.
Wow.
And for many months, people did not want to eat fish. So every time you have these disgusting pictures, and every day I was asking, there was no cell phone. I don't remember having cell phone at that time in Kigali, so you could not call anybody. We did not know. I think it was a lot of confusion. It was really confusion. We could only rely on what we were reading and what people were telling us. I remember some families in Uganda, just every day they would list up families that were killed. One person calling and telling them, this family is completely gone. Yeah, I mean, it was really confusing, really confusing. You couldn't believe that such could happen somewhere just nearby, and we felt helpless. Really, I personally felt helpless. I was only 21, and I didn't know. Well, what do you do? When will it end? We kept on thinking every day that tomorrow we're going to hear that it's over. Yeah.
So when it was over, was there a party you guys threw? Did you throw a party? Did you throw a party when you heard the genocide was officially over?
Oh God!
What was the experience that time?
Oh, the petty, I should say, as a Rwandan, the party is every day of our life from that day, 4th
Wow.
of July,
That's great.
1994. That was real celebration.
It's wonderful.
It was at the same time celebration. At the same time, of course, we were realizing what we lost. What we lost. But it was celebration because it was an end. And, but it was really, it was celebration in our hearts because 100 days was too long. Was really too long.
Wow. It's okay. Well, Rwanda, the change or the transformation in Rwanda as at today really impressed the world. And so many African countries look to Rwanda to say, wow, that's a great transformation from how we used to be and now. Could you let us into, at least you have been in touch with home, you know what the people do on a daily basis and so on. What are these things that give hope to an average Rwandan to say, never again? That slogan, never again.
I think we believed reconciliation is possible. Maybe it has not yet touched every person in Rwanda, but we believe in reconciliation. We believe that if we unite, if we are together, we're going to get to a great Rwanda, and also a great vision. I think today we're very proud to be called Rwandans. Very proud because every day we set higher goals. So that is basically, I can just stop in those three. Those three.
That's fine. But from what you have heard and relatives back home and news you've heard, do you think there are people who should be held responsible for that genocide?
Well, people, definitely yes. There should be people that should be. I mean, it started somewhere. I don't think God decided one day
that this should happen.
Definitely, yes. There should be people accountable. And that's actually why we keep hope. Accountability is very important, very important. But I personally attribute it to, at that time, bad leadership, poverty, also lack of education. I mean, you can't believe today in somebody can just come tell me go kill people and I accept, unless there is something. I mean, you need to brainwash me, and I need to be expecting something. I need to be thinking evil if I'm a leader. So yeah, definitely.
All right, but as a Rwandan, back home, what do you think was responsible? You mentioned poverty and some of these things, but what could be responsible for that kind of horrific event from your own mind?
I think hatred, and as I said earlier, bad leadership. I mean, petty mind. I mean, I was told by my parents that we were in another country because we were not allowed to live in our own country. I was told by my father he had to run away because he was denied to go to school. I mean, how do you explain that? I grew up knowing that being called Rwandan is an insult.
Wow, that's serious.
That's really serious. So I remember my kid brother, because he was born in the country where we grew up, and every time he told us he belonged to their country. Because every time they will call us Rwandans, he will feel it's an insult, obviously. When you're told that you are unwanted in your own country where you belong. So you can just imagine at that time, I believe, no, bad leadership. I think this is something that today our leaders all over the world should really, we should really look at avoiding having such leadership. You know, you can forgive so many things, but you can't forgive leadership that is dividing their own people. I mean, when people go outside looking for votes, they don't go just looking for votes in one particular area. They want votes from the entire place. Okay. So now how do you decide that these people are not part of the entire place?
Exactly.
And what shocked me when I was, again, young is we speak one language in Rwanda.
Okay.
One.
But that's the Hutu and the Tutsi. They speak the same language.
We speak one language.
All right.
And Hutu, Tutsi, or Twa is another indigenous. We speak the same language.
Okay, we'll come back to this.
Okay.
Now, Kagame has won praise for pulling his country out of the worst spell of violence the world has seen in decades. Now, his government has advanced women's rights, economic development, and healthcare. But critics say progress has been marred by the government's authoritarian grip on control, with many government critics and opposition members killed. Now, we'll go on a quick break, and Africa Today continues. Stay with us. All right, President Paul Kagame says his plan to prevent another genocide has been to raise a new generation of Rwandans who think differently from their parents and to rapidly reduce poverty. Now, Western governments poured aid into Rwanda to expand education, healthcare, access to electricity, and build new homes and roads. Now, foreign investment followed in hotels, mining, tea plantations, and Chinese-built office blocks. We're still looking at Rwanda 20 years after. We still have Rurangwa Fifi Josephine. Well, I prefer to call her Fifi. Now, let's talk about the celebration.
Okay.
It's not just a one-day event. It's going on and on and on and on. How are Rwandans celebrating, especially those in diaspora?
I'm back to Rwanda. I've been back to Rwanda for 14 years now.
Okay.
How do we celebrate? We celebrate by working, by helping our government to achieve the Vision 2020. We set these goals, and today, you know, we've been able to achieve a lot. I'm very proud to always tell people that I live in a very clean city.
That's great.
Very clean, very, very clean. Clean city. You talked about health. A lot of reforms have happened in Rwanda. My workers at home don't have any problems if they're sick. They can go and get treatments. This is actually in all the countries I've visited. I've never heard a country where you have an insurance for the whole population. Everybody has easy access to healthcare. I mean, this is really great. So yeah, so we celebrate by contributing to the economy growth. You see that what our government is setting up, each one of us actually, we set goals. I'm here in Nigeria. I'm the country manager of our airline, which is Rwanda. My goal is to make sure that we do well. Setting up the airline was one way to make sure that Lagos gets closer to Kigali. So what do? I make sure that people know more my country, know East Africa, and every day is my contribution, my personal contribution. And that is my way of celebrating. Celebrating is taking Rwanda back to the map. Is Yeah.
I like when you talk about Rwanda and so on. But what is unique about Rwanda today that would attract other Africans to Rwanda specifically, and even beyond?
Well, I think every African needs to come and see the determination of a small country, what we've done to get Rwanda to become one of the, I think we are number second best country in Africa in doing business. And then I think also Kigali, if I'm not wrong, Kigali was nominated the 4th country in Africa where it's good living. So we have plenty of opportunities for investments. I think the country is secure. We've managed to have enough security. I can drive to Kigali alone up to the wee hours of the day. I don't need to have a special security man in front of my house. I think that alone, we are blessed to have a beautiful country. So there's so much to see. It's green all over the year. There's wildlife. We have the Gorilla Mountains. That is something exceptional because we have the last species of the silverback. I mean, so I think we have improved so much in all the sectors that I believe that's not small for Africans to come and see.
But when we talk about the economy, now one way or the other, there are infrastructure, but you've named some anyway. But how robust is the Rwandan economy for anyone who is interested in investing in the country to come in at this time?
So it's been growing. I think those have been following our footstep. I've seen records. It's about 8% every year, growing, an average of 8% growth. And right now, tourism has been really contributing much into our economy, as well as our coffee. We have one of the best coffee in the world.
That's great. That's great.
So most of the time I tell people, you think you're drinking Nescafe, but it's probably you're drinking Rwandan coffee.
That's interesting, really interesting.
And even the tea, the tea. People call the tea Lipton.
Okay.
But I'm sure if they were here to tell us where the tea comes from,
it could be Rwanda.
Most probably.
Oh, wonderful.
You have tea,
Rwandan
tea.
But how is the inflow of people, tourists going into Rwanda as at now?
Well, I don't have the exact numbers. I don't have the exact numbers, but I know that we've been recording huge numbers and growing every year. Really, unfortunately, not much from Africans. But that is not because Africans don't want to come to Rwanda. It's just that Africans, most of the time, we want to discover outside our continent than actually discovering our continent.
Because it seems like most African countries are virtually the same.
That's what they say.
To a great extent.
I think until you go and see, you can't tell. You'll agree with me.
No, certainly, that's true. Because if you're talking about going into South Africa or going into Egypt or going to Kenya or going to Ghana or even Nigeria, until you get there, you wouldn't know how beautiful these countries could be.
Exactly. And they're too different. And they're really too different.
Okay.
I remember sometime like my mom, she used to take me on a walk, and then she would tell me, oh, you know, this place reminds me my home. And I'm like, Mommy, these are just hills. So it's until I went to her village.
Okay.
And I saw it was actually almost, but it was not that, because in her village you have these plantations all on the hills, and it's really adds on the beauty, you know. So yeah, I think it's time that African starts traveling and knowing. And then again, why do we go and travel to Europe, travel to America, travel to Asia, and you don't even know the neighboring country? You know, so I think, but I must admit, things are changing.
Okay.
Things are really changing. I've been in Nigeria for a couple of months, but I can tell you that most of my travelers are mainly Nigerians, as opposed to some other markets where we fly. You have foreigners flying Rwanda, but here is a market where you have the Nigerians are the ones who want to go and invest in Rwanda. The Nigerians are the ones organizing workshops in Rwanda. The Nigerians are the ones that are doing now leisure travel in Rwanda. So I think things are changing. So it is just, you have to tell them.
Okay. Now, how involved, I'm good, we're trying to wind down now, but how involved are women? Because they say that women are the bedrock of the society. How involved are women in activities, societal activity in Rwanda? Well,
I think you know that Rwanda is the first country having most women in parliament. So that means we take decisions. We are actually helping the governments to achieve and the population. And women are all in all sectors today, and education has been open to girls, and accessibility up to the deep down villages. You have these little villages that speak English and go to school. So we've been encouraging there's a lot of reforms as well for women, so that they can either create jobs and be able to sustain their families, or take them through. As we speak, Rwanda has the first female pilot.
Wow.
On Rwanda.
That's great.
Yeah, so
congratulations to you on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, but however, this is the much you can take today. Thank you for coming on Africa Today.
Thank you very much.
Thanks
for inviting me.
Thank you. Right, with 2/3 of Rwanda's population under 25 years and life expectancy just 55, many have placed their hopes in the country's youth. As a result, stringent efforts have been made to improve access to education, and the country can boast that 97% of its children attend primary school, the highest rate in Africa. Now, pupils are discouraged from identifying themselves as Hutu or Tutsi and are instead asked to focus on building the future of a common Rwanda. The shock of what occurred in 1994 may echo through the world's courtrooms for years to come, because you were either hunting or being hunted. And just like the words of Nigerian author Sefia Atta, Rwandans believe that with the time, everything good will come. That's our show for today. You can watch previous episodes of the show on youtube.com/TVC Africa Today. And until the next one, I am Mike Okwoche. And remember, this is Africa. Bye for now.